The evening of Saturday, April 12, 2014 saw a storm roll into Genesee County. The four-generation family farm of Brad Morey and Sons was squarely in its path.
Stood in the front yard looking west. And of course, I'm thinking to myself, this probably shouldn't be a good idea for me standing out in the middle of the yard. But I'm standing there looking at the storm coming. And the storm cloud was about a mile wide. And it was lightning was coming out of it, out of both ends, out the middle. And when it started having funnel clouds coming out each end, I decided that there was no place for me. Went to the basement, but that time the storm hit. The wind was so great it sounded like a freight train. The hail was so great I thought it was going to bust the windows in on the house.
The next thing Brad Morey knew, his neighbor called to say one of his grain bins was in her backyard. Upon venturing out to see for himself, he found his less than one-year-old grain drying system in shambles. He then picked up the phone and reached out to his agent, Ken Pangborn.
I was actually on a 4-day weekend in Ohio, and basically got a call from my client, and he was pretty shaken up by the fact that a windstorm came through and completely devastated his entire superstructure, turnhead, downspouting grain, and Morton building. It was quite intense. I could clearly tell from his call that he needed assistance. So I came home, and we basically got things in order, contacted and set up the claim, and our claims adjuster, Randy Knoll, a farm claims specialist, responded in a speedy fashion, and from there we put things in motion to basically make and build this thing, or put it back together based on its coverages.
Within hours, contractors tarped off equipment and exposed grain and seed to mitigate additional damage from ensuing rains. And with spring planting around the corner, discussions took place between the agent, adjuster, and insured to be sure they'd be ready.
The claims went seamlessly well. When we first started into it, everybody was on board. Let's get things cleaned up. Randy was on board. Let's get the roof off the pole barn. Let's get the equipment out to see what damage we got. He was instrumental on getting stuff rolling on that part. So everybody just had their walking orders. So we went to work on it.
In the months that followed, Brad Morey was able to use the positive claim experience with Farm Bureau Insurance to help a fellow farmer decide on an insurer for his own operation.
There's a local farmer here that was thinking about changing insurance companies, and apparently Ken's agency was talking to him. And we was to a function down to another farmer in south of here one evening. And he walked up to me and he says, Brad, it's probably none of my business, but he says, how they treat you at Farm Bureau? I'm thinking about switching over to them. And I told him, I said, I said, don't think about it, just do it. I says, they've been top notch, and I said they've been, the farm adjuster has been a super guy to work with, and I says, just do it.
When a person has a loss, their loss is what's most important. It's really nice to be able to deliver our promise. When we sat down with a new client and we look them in the eye, and we can't apologize for the bad apples maybe they've been served up by other companies prior to now, is that we want to make sure that, and we promise them that we will be there for them at time of loss. And when we respond the way that Randy Knoll did, it's gratifying to us as an agency force, and as a personal agent. I've been with the company for 21 years in various capacities. It is great to be able to deliver that promise. I want to continue to be able to deliver the promise.